I'm going to be grading every first-round selection from the top half of the 2020 NFL Draft. It's been 5 years now, which is longer than the average NFL career, so it's the perfect time to give out some final grades. First up, we got the Bengals picking Joe Burrow at number 1. It's an easy A+. Burrow was clearly the most impressive QB prospect in the class and has been the most successful so far in the league. He's a 2-time Comeback Player of the Year winner, 2-time Pro Bowler, a passing yards leader, passing touchdowns leader, and a completion percentage leader, while also already having a Super Bowl appearance under his belt. Burrow has cemented himself as a top 4 quarterback in the league and will continue to keep the Bengals as a dark horse Super Bowl team for years to come. This pick couldn't have gone much better for Cincy. At number 2, Washington picked Chase Young, another draft grade video, and another poor grade for Washington. Young was seen as the premier defensive prospect in 2020 as he had a rare combination of elite size, length, and athleticism, so it wasn't a surprise when he went off the board at number 2. However, Young was far from a perfect prospect. He relied a lot on his physical traits as a pass rusher. He lacked variety in his approach, needed more refinement, and was unimpressive against better competition in college. Since entering the league, there hasn't been much improvement in his game, and he's put up mediocre numbers for most of his career. Young's yet to get more than 8 sacks in a season, and he's now on his 3rd team in the NFL as he struggled to establish himself as a plus player. Overall, this is a pick that Washington wishes they could have back. At number 3, another Ohio State defender, Jeff Okudah. Detroit picked the top cornerback after he had an impressive final playoff game against Clemson. Okudah had prototypical corner size and length and had an impressive press man skill set. He could win off the line, shadow guys downfield, and leave only the smallest of passing windows. However, once he got in the league, he struggled early on with some hamstring issues, tough assignments as Detroit threw him into the fire immediately in man coverage. He then tore his Achilles in his second year, and he just never really got settled into the league. His athleticism was never elite, and then once the injuries came in, his play speed got even worse, and now he's just a backup journeyman. Overall, Okudah was a promising talent coming out of college, but things just didn't go his way in the league, and his injury issues ended up leading to his demise. He was a top prospect, and Detroit had a need at the position, so you can't really knock this pick too much. That's why I give them a C. Next, we got Andrew Thomas at number 4. This pick gets an A. New York surprised a decent amount of people by making Thomas the first tackle off the board. He was a first-team All-American at Georgia and had crazy 36-inch long arms, as well as powerful hands and refined technique. However, Thomas lacked ideal physical thickness. He also had inconsistent knee bend and didn't have the most impressive athleticism. So far in his NFL career, Thomas's strengths have really shined. He's been a standout tackle, and he was even a second-team All-Pro in 2022. Unfortunately, injuries have slowed him down the past 2 years and haven't allowed him to put together a season as successful as he had in 2022. Overall, Thomas is a big part of New York's offense, and there's a clear regression when he's not on the field. He's the anchor on their line, and his performance level has lived up to the expectations of a top 5 pick. At number 5, the Dolphins picked Tua Tagovailoa. The season-long tank for Tua didn't exactly go to plan as they only got the 5th pick, but Miami still was able to secure their guy. Tua had an impressive college career as he won a national title and won the Offensive MVP award for that game. He rarely made any mistakes and had impressive touch down the field as well as a quick release. Tua seemed like a perfect QB to run an NFL RPO-style offense. However, he was and still is small in stature at only 6 foot 215, and he has underwhelming arm strength, as well as a lot of durability issues. Tua was a high floor, low ceiling prospect with injury problems, so it's not surprising that his career has gone the way it has so far in the league. Miami has built their offense to play to his strengths as he's got the most explosive offensive skill group in the league, and they run the RPO offense with great effectiveness. Tua's been a Pro Bowler and has led the league in passing yards in this offense. However, he's failed to really uplift his surroundings and has fell short consistently against better defenses that force him to make plays, and Miami has yet to win a playoff game during his tenure. The Dolphins have been stuck as an average team for the past half decade, and I think this is a pick that they wish they could have back. Overall, I gotta give them a C+. Let's look at the grade tiers after the first 5 selections: a top QB and tackle off the board, and then an average QB and 2 disappointing Ohio State defenders. No crazy busts, but not the best top 5. Next, we have the Chargers picking up Justin Herbert at number 6. This pick gets an A. The 3rd QB off the board quickly became a franchise guy for the Chargers. As a prospect, he had ideal size and arm strength and had college experience making full field reads. However, his touch was inconsistent and his accuracy got away from him at times. Since entering the league, he's been an absolute stud. He's had over 20 touchdowns and over a 2.5 touchdown to interception ratio in each of his first 5 seasons. Even with some receiver rooms that haven't always been the most dependable, his guys have been in the top 7 in drop percentage in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Herbert is also a former Rookie of the Year and Pro Bowler and has one of the nastiest throwing highlight reels in the league. He's flashed mastery at the position, and if his team can do a better job of giving him weapons on offense, the sky's the limit for him. Overall, the Chargers got a top-level quarterback at number 6, so this was a great value pick. At number 7, Carolina scooped up Derrick Brown, another great pick. This one also gets an A. At Auburn, Derrick was flashing grown man strength paired with his elite size. He could play at multiple positions on the line and was able to be effective against any kind of run play and crush the pocket on 3rd downs. He was a leader for the Tigers and even earned the nickname Baby Barack. Once in the NFL, it took him a few years to really hit his peak in Carolina, but he was a monster in 2023. The Pro Bowler had 53 run stops and 73 total tackles, both being the most for any interior defender, and he also added 27 pressures. He unfortunately missed basically all of 2024 due to injury, but he has shown that he can be an elite contributor for Carolina, and he will definitely be a cornerstone of their defense for at least the next half decade. Next, the Cards picked Isaiah Simmons. This pick gets a D, one of the more polarizing prospects in 2020, a corner, linebacker, safety hybrid with an elite athletic profile. However, a guy who didn't have a clear positional fit at the next level. Simmons had rare speed, explosiveness, and range as a linebacker, which made it difficult for college linemen to get hands on him and led to him having solid ball production. His length also made him hard to throw against in zone. However, his overall mental processing as well as his physicality was unimpressive, and that led to a rough go for him in the NFL. He's had issues with his angles, getting off blocks, and his anticipation and ability to read routes has been poor. He didn't do much in Arizona, and he's now on his second team. Overall, the Cardinals reached for a flashy athlete, but a guy who ultimately was not built to be a high-level, every-down linebacker. This was a poor evaluation from their front office and a waste of a top 10 pick. At number 9, the Jags picked cornerback CJ Henderson. The Florida alum didn't have to move too far to play his pro football. In college, he had some impressive tape against elite guys like Chase and Jefferson, which blew up his stock. CJ had prototypical press corner size and paired that with high-level athleticism. He had the highest combine score of any corner in the class. Henderson had impressive fluidity and footwork, which allowed him to mirror routes off the line. He had the strength to misdirect receivers and the speed to cover deep. He also had plus burst to close on passes. There was a lot to like with him, but he also had some glaring weaknesses which became more evident in the pros. Poor balance, mental processing, and ball skills led to a lot of open receivers in his coverage, as well as a lot of critical pass interference penalties. His arm length is average and his quickness isn't anything special, so his press and mirroring ability didn't translate over that well. He's now on his 4th team and has yet to put up a string of decent performances. Overall, Jacksonville picked Henderson slightly higher than people expected him to go, and his game just didn't work in the NFL quite the way they expected. This is a pick they probably wish they could have back. Next, we got the Browns picking Jeudy and Wills at number 10. The Alabama product had NFL size and tons of high-level production in college. He was an elite athlete with a 90th percentile athletic score for the tackle position, and that showed up on tape as he was a great blocker in space on running plays. Wills also had impressive quickness and power in his hands. Once he joined the Browns, his career was mainly filled with inconsistent performances. His lack of ability to sustain and finish blocks looked ugly at times on tape, and his effort level hasn't always looked the best. He failed to meet expectations, didn't earn himself a second contract with Cleveland, and he's now a free agent waiting for a team to pick him up. Picking Wills at number 10 was reasonable, and it was a positional need for Cleveland, so I think a C- grade is fair. Looking at the grade tiers now again, this is a rough top 10 for defensive prospects, multiple C's and D's. The Herbert and Burrow A grades really do a lot to help carry this class when comparing them to other top 10s. Now to number 11, the Jets picked Mekhi Becton out of Louisville, an absolutely massive prospect at 6'7", 364 with 35 and 5/8 inch arms. Becton was a physically imposing player with elite potential. He had alarming punch power, and even at his size, he still had impressive movement ability and nimble feet. However, there were a lot of areas for concern in his game. With a guy as big as him, weight management can always be a problem, especially if injuries arise. Becton was also a work in progress in terms of his technique. His punch timing needed improvement, and his patience and play speed wasn't great in college. Deciding to pick a project player like Becton over a much more refined guy like Wirfs was definitely a questionable decision. Mekhi had a rough go in New York. Injuries slowed him down, but he also wasn't great when he was healthy either. He had a resurgence in Philly this past season playing guard, but this was overall a poor evaluation and a bad selection by the Jets, as they missed out on all-pro talent in the same position just to go for a flashier physique. This pick gets a D. Next, we have the Raiders picking Henry Ruggs at number 12, the first receiver off the board. This class was seen as rich at the receiver position. However, Ruggs was not expected to be the first one selected. Henry had rare game-breaking 4.2 speed and was the type of player that demanded attention on every snap. The Raiders picked him in an attempt to force defenses to play with high safeties to open up the run game and underneath passing game. Ruggs did bring a dynamic element to the team and had a good start to 2021, putting up nearly 500 yards in 7 games before his career ultimately ended. Overall, he had a unique skill set, but probably wasn't the best receiver on the board. Due to off-the-field issues, his career did not last long, and this is definitely a pick the Raiders wish they could have back. At number 13, the Bucs got Wirfs, incredible value at one of the premier positions in football. He had elite size and athleticism coming in. He was a 96th percentile athlete and had ridiculous speed and explosiveness scores. He combined that with great quickness and power and impressive technique. He was smooth and pass pro, very fluid and in unison with his hands and feet. His tape wasn't as dominant and flashy as some of the other top tackles, but he was very well-rounded and promising as a prospect. 5 years into his NFL career, and he's already a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, and a Super Bowl champion. This was one of the best picks of the draft. The Bucs obviously get an A+ here. Next, the Niners picked Jeudy and Kinlaw. He was basically like the Mekhi Becton of defenders in this draft. Kinlaw was massive at 6'5", 324 and had intimidating physical traits and power. He had flashes of dominance in college where he was just shoving dudes around. He was not easy to move in the run game and an explosive force as a rusher. However, his get-off was unimpressive and his technique was still in need of refinement. His movement was very inefficient and his overall level of performance was wildly inconsistent, even against weaker competition. The Niners picked him hoping that they would be able to help him put everything together and turn him into a star interior defender. Well, that didn't end up being the case. Kinlaw is now on his second team and has only been able to muster up 9.5 sacks and 110 tackles in his 5-year career. Overall, San Fran overdrafted a raw physical specimen and put too much trust and faith in their own ability to develop him. They ended up not getting great value out of the 14th pick, and this one gets a D+ grade. Jeudy at number 15 to the Broncos, another receiver going before CeeDee Lamb, which was pretty surprising. Jeudy had a rare twitch and quickness as a route runner, which gained him a lot of love during the pre-draft process. He was able to manipulate defenders with his pace and tempo and also had speed to burn defenders deep. However, he was long-legged and not the most precise when working laterally. His strength was unimpressive and his hands were also a cause for concern. His speed was good, but nothing too frightening for a defense. Overall, it was a mixed bag with him. In the NFL, he's had some ups, but mainly downs. His route running ability works more so against man coverage, but he's not the best at finding voids and zones. He's not a consistent deep threat and also has mediocre hands and contested catch ability. He's become more of a role player than a star receiver. He did have some great numbers with Jameis in Cleveland this year, but I'm sure that Denver are kicking themselves for picking Jeudy at number 15 when CeeDee Lamb was still on the board. Finally, we got the Falcons picking Terrell. This was a big surprise, but it's been a good return for Atlanta, so they get an A-. Terrell had impressive technique and quickness as a press corner in college. He was well-balanced and mirrored receivers at a high level, and also had good closing speed. However, he had relatively short arms, average size, and he got absolutely smoked by Jamar Chase in the national title game. Due to these factors, he was expected to go maybe early second round, maybe late first, but the Falcons went out and got him at 16. He's been great in the league so far and has helped provide Atlanta with a reliable defender in the secondary. He's a former second-team All-Pro. He hasn't always played at that high of a level, but he still overall had a positive impact on the team, which is why the Falcons get an A- grade here. Now let's look at the final grade tiers for the top half of the first round. This was really a hit-or-miss draft, not a single player in the B grade tier. There was a lot of disappointments, but also some standout players from this class. So those are my thoughts on the top half of the first from 2020. The second half review is coming soon. Let me know what you think about the grades in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you like the content. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.